Why I cheated despite having a perfect marriage. A lot of times I get asked if my husband was not good in bed, or if our marriage left me unsatisfied in some other way. Because to a lot of people it doesn't make sense why a woman would go out of her way to seek out meaningless casual sex with a stranger when she has a willing sexual partner at home. Here's the thing though, cheating is almost always a stupid choice. Even for someone stuck in a terrible marriage with a dead bedroom, an affair wouldn't actually solve the root of their unhappiness. It would just introduce an even more superficial and uncertain relationship into an already messed up life. This is even more true for me, who've had what I can only describe as a perfect marriage. Our connection has always been great. We treat each other as equals. We have very similar values and perspectives on how things should work, and we are sort of kindred spirits given both of us have had a troubled childhood. We've been together for almost 12 years now, and we have 2 beautiful kids together who are the light of our lives. So when I cheated, it was even more confusing to my husband, who couldn't come to terms with the fact that I would throw it all away for cheap sex and shallow validation. But that's the thing about cheating. The fault is almost never in the partner who gets cheated on. It is almost always a fault in the cheating partner's mindset and way of thinking. I cheated because I was selfish and lacked the integrity to stay away from easy validation. Why would I go to another person seeking pleasure and validation? The same things my husband could already provide. The simple answer to that is selfishness. Yes, I had a source of pleasure and validation in my husband. I simply wanted another. To a person who has failed themselves at every level and totally sunk into selfishness, it starts to feel natural to want more and more, even when you may have all you need. Just like a thief, who might not be stealing because he has nothing to eat, but just because he's addicted to the act. The problem was that I had sunk too deep into unhealthy coping mechanisms and had become scared about being vulnerable and honest. What that means, essentially, is that I failed my marriage. I was going through a midlife crisis, and instead of leaning into my husband and showing him all of me and allowing him to soothe me, I closed myself down because it felt like too much effort. It made me feel too vulnerable. I was too afraid of all the risks, all the ways such honesty could work against me. I failed to bring the sort of openness and vulnerability to my relationship that my husband deserved to have. Instead, I looked outward and seeked out casual encounters to gain validation. Why? Simply because it was easy and didn't require me to put my feelings out there. Involved zero risk with zero long-term consequences. This is also where my lack of personal integrity and dishonesty with self shows consequences. To a person who has a strong moral compass, it is a no-brainer to invest in a long-term relationship and take the hard way of vulnerability and mutual connection, because you know in the long term that path is going to be so much more fulfilling and rewarding. But I took the easy way out of casual sex and transitory pleasures because I was not only selfish but also short-sighted. But this is the crux of why I cheated. Not because of any shortcoming in my marriage, but due to several personality defects that I failed to fix. Now, you of course can read all that and conclude this is too much intellectualization, and the simple fact is that I am a terrible person. And sure, you're allowed to think that. Nobody is owed a second chance at proving themselves. But I have to go somewhere from here. I can either continue down the easy path of casual sex and cheap thrills, or I can change to the hard path of commitment, vulnerability, and trying to be better. I'm choosing the latter. I don't know yet if I can change, but I am taking steps to understand myself so I can fix the parts of me that I need to fix. Will I cheat again? I don't know. But I will definitely be a better person moving forward.